G'day guys. As investors and as people and as humans, we tend to procrastinate so much. So in today's video, we're actually going to talk about why do investors procrastinate so much and what are some of the reasons that are actually stopping us taking action and achieving that financial independence that we're looking for. So I'm Ben Everingham, I'm the director here at Pumped on Property. In today's video, I've got my sister and business partner, Crystal, with us.
Hey guys, I'm Crystal Everingham.
So in today's video, we're going to talk about some of these things that I feel like are really big reasons why people procrastinate in property, myself included. I always put myself in the same bag because I'm shit scared of getting into more debt like everybody should be, and as soon as that fear goes away, you should probably stop investing because that becomes gambling at that point, I think. So, you know, we can talk about not having a mentor or coach. We're going to talk about limited time, analysis paralysis, and about 12 other things that are the most common reasons from talking to over 6,000 investors in the last 5 years why people procrastinate, which procrastination is just not taking action effectively. So why don't we kick it off, Crystal, with this concept, because obviously your background prior to coming into this was in the training world, and you ran a business which was a personal training business. What was the effect of having no mentor or coach, I suppose, from an investment perspective? And then, you know, how can we tie that back into the stuff that you learned?
Oh, for sure. So I originally was living in Sydney as a PT, moved up here 3 years ago, and honestly, prior to that, I would never have even known where to begin, what to be looking for, and I just wouldn't have even known what to even do. A classic example is my partner who, before we met, he'd been saving all his life. We'd both been saving all our life since we were about 18 to actually buy a property. And until we met and actually had each other as that sort of person to fall back on, and a bit of that support network and someone to actually discuss, and then having Ben's knowledge, we would never have made that first step. And prior to that, and prior to coming up here and understanding how easy it can be when someone breaks it down for you, and having someone like Ben there to kind of mentor me through the process, it honestly would have been a completely different situation. We probably still wouldn't have any properties.
You know, like this concept of a mentor and a coach is a funny one because everybody needs a good kick in their ass every now and then. Like, I've got a trainer that I work with every now and then. My brother-in-law's a trainer, Crystal was a trainer, my brother was also a trainer. Two of my good friends are also personal trainers, and I regularly do sessions with all of them just to, one, learn new things, and two, just hold myself accountable, because sometimes they can say stuff to me that I knew but I just wasn't prepared to take on board at that time. And when they're coming from a place of empathy and care, a good mentor or a good coach can really sort of help you get over that hurdle of this feeling of overwhelm or procrastination. And sometimes just having someone holding your hand, even though you might be able to do it yourself in all different areas of your life, can be super positive. So let's talk about another one of the key procrastination tools that people use, and that is this age-old one: I don't have enough time. And if you're in Sydney, you just live by that. Your whole world is busy. Like, everyone in Sydney is so busy, and it's like a badge of honour that they wear. And, you know, then you've got people in Melbourne, because I'm from Sydney, so I'm giving myself a hard time here, but now I've moved to Queensland, everyone, you know, has probably too much time. That's our problem up here. You know, and Melbourne's a little bit the same these days, as it's gotten a bit bigger, it's gotten a bit more hustle and bustle, and now that there's less, you know, old money in Melbourne and people that grew up down there, and just everyone from around the world wanting to move there, the culture's changing as well. So limited time is a huge procrastination tool. I've got 3 children, 2 businesses. I bought 11 properties in the last 8 years. I've got an epic group of mates. I train almost every single day. I surf. You know, what's your excuse? Like, seriously, just, you know, all of my children are under 5.5 years of age. Like, there's more than enough time. You know, I still watch Netflix for like 2 to 3 hours every night as well. I was binge watching it last night with my wife. You know, there's like so much time in the day. Just don't use that as a bullshit procrastination excuse anymore. And sorry to be hard on that one. I promise for the rest of them I'll be softer on it. But I freaking hate this concept of busy.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's sort of a get out of jail free card that a lot of people divert back to. But honestly,
I work 40 hours a week and I've got to get on the train for an hour each way each day. I don't have any time to do anything with my life. I'm like, what about the other 12 and a half hours in your day?
Yeah, exactly right. No, it's definitely one that we hear a lot, and I think it's yeah, it's just a roadblock in people trying to use an excuse, but yeah, everyone's got time if you make it.
Cool, so you can maybe talk through some of these next ones, Crystal, maybe points 3 to 5 on the board there, if you can read my crazy ass writing.
Yeah, for sure. So the next one is social support. So having a support system or a support network that is there for you. People that are like-minded. I begun saying something before about Matt and I as a perfect example, but we are like-minded. Until we met each other, neither of us probably would have made the decisions that we've made in the last 3 years since knowing each other. Having friends that support you, people around you that are basically there to, I guess, chat about these things with, someone that can actually be there. And a lot of the time people come to us because they don't have that network, they don't have people they can talk about it, they're embarrassed to bring up these types of things, they don't, I don't know, have people around them that are actually supporting them.
In Australia, it's like really socially unacceptable to talk about your dreams in a positive way and to get support from people that have actually gone through and done it. And it's also really socially unacceptable to, you know, be doing better than the people in your network financially, because people in Australia see that as threatening, where people in America, for example, see that as like the most positive thing ever and want to know how you did it and want to spend time with you. So, you know, you've got to work through that stuff. Crystal and I came from a family where we had, you know, not a huge amount of money when we were really young, and then Dad started a really good business and worked his absolute ass off and created a good financial position. But my parents still have never to this day invested in a single property. Like Dad and Mum broke up, but Dad owns one home and Mum owns one home. Like, despite all of the stuff that we've been doing and everything that they know now, because, you know, we sometimes talk about it with them. Yeah. More just like, Mum and Dad, you get your shit together. Like, you need to be financially free before you end up on the pension type thing. Yeah. As a laugh, like, you know, they're actually in a good position. But, it's just, you know, there's two things there. Like, one, in society, we don't always have those people around us. And two, sometimes those people that have already walked that journey, you know, might not be as accessible as you want them to be, which is why we're trying to create this super relaxed forum where you can learn from us about this sort of stuff, and we can become your mates. And, you know, like, I'll probably start having a beer on some of these videos, and maybe you can have one while you're watching it, or a glass of wine and stuff. Or if you're on the commute, you can have an awkward laugh about the stupid ass jokes that we make, and people can be just sort of going, what's wrong with that dude, because he's smiling on the Sydney train. But social support, what about some of these others? Yeah,
so the next one's probably market knowledge, or limited market knowledge. So people don't know where to begin, don't know what to look for, don't know what's what in the property world, and there's so much information out there. If you're not sure how to channel that to one market and know where to buy and what to buy, it's really, really hard. And I know Ben's touched on it before in terms of Brisbane being at the right time of the market.
As of 2018 that we're recording this, if you're watching it in 10 years, look at Sydney or Melbourne again.
But yeah, so, and not having that market, so a lot of the people we work with are from Sydney and Melbourne, and who would know where to buy, what to do in a Brisbane market, and it's a very different environment up here. So we're here to support you with that knowledge, and I guess help you make a decision on an area where you otherwise would have absolutely no idea of what to do.
And 3 to 4 years ago, when I was buying in Sydney with Crystal for our clients that were living in Brisbane and Melbourne and Perth, they were like, why Sydney? And we sort of said, just trust us, Sydney will be good, and not us, based on the data that we follow every single week and every single month. And, you know, 2.5 years ago we pivoted into Brisbane because we saw the writing on the wall, which is now resulting in a correction in Sydney. So if you're looking to start out from that perspective, check out the Heron Todd White Month in Review report. It provides a really great monthly summary of where each of the capital cities and major regional markets in Australia are at in terms of timing each month. Take a look at Phil Anderson's book, The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking, which looks at the global cycle and its timing. Take a look at the Core Logic monthly update on the Australian housing market, which is a 10-minute video. And those three things will get you a much, much better understanding of, you know, market and which one you should be looking at and focusing your attention on at any point in time.
Yeah. Which sort of brings us into the next one, which is analysis paralysis. A lot of people get caught up in trying to understand the markets a little bit too much maybe, or just reading way too much from way too many different points of view that they end up just being so unbelievably confused with what the hell they should be doing that they just, I don't know, basically stop themselves from going out anywhere or procrastinate for far too long, that they read too much information and then have no idea where the hell to go.
There's this dude, because I started Pumped on Property not as a buyer's agency but as a blog to help people get great access to information like this, and there's this dude, I've about once a year, I just call him Mr. M. He sends me an email saying, hey Ben, what are your thoughts on the marketplace? And I've been sending him those now for 6 years. And I was looking back at them the other day, and 6 years ago I said, hey Mr. M, great to hear everything's doing well. I think you should look at a high quality house on the beaches on the south side of Sydney, which over that 6 year period have doubled in value. Then I looked at my emails from 4.5 years ago saying, I think we don't buy in Melbourne, and he wanted to do it on his own. I was just sharing my thoughts on my research, and I said, Melbourne looks super interesting right now, particularly like that Geelong area or the Mornington Peninsula, which those two areas have gone up by about 80% in 4.5 years.
Crazy.
And 3 years ago, he said, what are you doing now? And I said, I'm moving into the Brisbane marketplace because I believe it will do well, and I think on the Brisbane market, those northern beachside suburbs of Brisbane will do well. At the time, we were buying houses for 350 grand. The same houses are now worth 500. So in a market that's done like 3% over that time on average, these properties have done 30 or 40%. And I still get these emails. He still hasn't done anything. Like, he's still consuming every video that I've ever recorded. He's listening to all the podcasts. He's following everyone else's shit. And it's just like, stop doing that. Just take a moment to get a strategy in place for yourself. If you don't feel comfortable doing it on your own, go find one of the 100 different partners online that might be able to help you execute on that, and make it happen type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
And I'll be getting emails from this dude for the next 20 years, and that's cool. We'll be full circle back at Sydney at the bottom of the next GFC.
Do you want to go into the next couple, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly touch on some of these others, like why do people procrastinate so much? I think an average team of advisors is a big one. If your financial advisor, your accountant, your solicitor, your mortgage broker is trying to sell you some piece of crap brand new property, there's a conflict of interest there. If your advisors don't own property and they're not well on their way to financial freedom already outside of their business or their job, you've got a major issue there. If you're getting sold something to someone who is not yet doing what you're planning on doing, or in a position where they are every single day spending their time on this one thing and they're trying to be everything to everyone, they're not the right advisor for you. Like our mortgage broker, Aaron, he's exceptional. He owns 40 investment properties outright. Like my solicitor, he's less than 50 years of age. Like my solicitor is completely financially independent through property without his business in any way. My accountant is the most conservative dude in the entire universe. Worth an absolute fortune and drives like a $2,000 truck. Like everyone that I try and surround myself with are people that are living and breathing it and doing it, not just talking about doing it, and super, super conservative, but in a way that protects, you from yourself type thing. So the quality of, your investments is determined by the quality of the advice that you're getting and the people you're surrounding yourself with. So just be aware of that one. Yeah. Lack of confidence, fear of failure, they're two massive ones. Every time I buy, I feel sick. Like, let's share your story
oh my God.
about me and you driving in the car to buy your first property, because this is like the perfect example of how much even the most logical person can get overwhelmed by this thing.
Yeah, for sure. So
this is
this is about 18 months ago. Buying first investment, bought our PPR a year or so before that. Just gone to inspect this property, absolutely stoked. It's probably at that point in time the 2000th property I'd inspected in this market. I just knew the area so well. Yeah, in this suburb. Knew the area so well and was like, yep, this is the one. Price is great. Let's go see it. Got to the property and was so excited. Got the contract, and then literally 5 minutes later started having like a mini panic attack. Despite me helping so many people up until this point, buying this area and being so well educated, that fear of failure and that fear of, I guess, moving forward and that lack of confidence, I was freaking out. Ben basically needed to stage an intervention to stop me from having a panic attack about signing this bloody contract. And I was literally sitting there just being like, oh my God, but what about this and what about that? And I just don't know if this is the right thing to do, and I don't know if I'm making the right decision, and what if this happens? And I was just creating every possible excuse that I could pick out under the sun why not to go ahead, rather than going, this is a freaking amazing suburb, this is a great price, this is a great property. And over the time that I've owned it, it's done very well for me. But honestly, that fear came into play, and Ben honestly just had to jump in and just be like, Crystal!
What's so funny about this, and like I'm going to share a similar story in a second. Like Crystal up to that point had probably, with me, bought about 150 million bucks worth of property. Yeah. She had spent every single week, twice a week in this suburb for about a year and a half up to that point. Crystal also has a photographic memory, and actually like has a photographic memory and knows that suburb like the back of her hand, to the point where like she knew exactly where that street was. She'd seen the property before we drove back down there and had a look at it. Like she knew where it was. I'm sitting in the car with her I'm driving there, and I didn't know where this street was. And we're driving, and I'm on Google Maps and talking to Crystal about it, and I'm like, turn Google Maps off, and I'm like, where do we go? And she was so overwhelmed by that feeling that comes up when you feel like you're getting into massive amounts of debt, that we couldn't get to the property without me putting Google Maps back on. And it was like, you know, I don't mean to say that in a negative way. Like,
no.
What I'm trying to do is be like super real. There's all these challenges that we face. Recently, my wife found an expensive property for us to buy on the Sunshine Coast for us to move into for our family for the next like 20 to 30 years. Like, it's our forever home. I paid $100,000 more than what the market value of the property was, because my wife was so freaking emotionally attached to this property, and completely blew like the way that I negotiate with agents out of the water, because the first time she walked in, she told them we wanted to buy it and we'd pay whatever we needed to get it. Even though it was in a market where the average days was 90 days and it was the first day that it had been listed online. Like, we were going to miss out on it, and everyone's walking around with that type of coin. I literally didn't sleep for 3 nights. Like, I was that sick about this thing, and then Crystal had to cop the brute of that, of me like obsessing about the sales history, trying to justify the decision, and I couldn't justify it to the point I wanted to walk away. And then my wife's like, I'll pretty much leave you if you don't buy this property. So like, as people that have bought, I bought 11 properties up until that point. That was the 11th property that I bought for myself. Like, as a business, up to that point, we'd bought over 250 million bucks worth of property. We still feel this every time we buy. So if you're just getting started on your first investment, or you're going from your first couple of investments to the next stage, or you're just buying your first property, like, just recognize that this is shit scary. Nobody likes debt. Our brain is wired to run away from dinosaurs. Property is not a dinosaur. So just logically rule out that fear, and if the decision stacks up and it's the right time and it's not going to stress you out, and you're financially in the right position to make it, and it's not going to end up with you being in a worse position in the future, and you've done your due diligence and you know that it's the right one, then have confidence and just acknowledge that that fear's there, but it doesn't have to be in front of your face. It can just be something out there. That made my hand look bigger, but I was trying to make it look smaller. I don't know. So, we've talked about a few of these things in terms of why do property investors procrastinate so much, and these are the big consistent things that we find. Let's, finish up with the last couple, and then I'll wrap it all up at the end.
Yeah, so another thing, no budget, no savings. People use it as a tool to kind of basically create an excuse as to why they can't make it happen.
I understand that not everybody is earning enough money to buy an investment property in a year. But it takes time to buy an investment property, and it takes time to save a budget. Now if you've got a goal of buying your first investment property in Sydney or Melbourne right now for $1 million and you're earning $50,000 a year, it's going to take a long time to get there. But there are other markets outside of Melbourne and Sydney where you can get great property close to the CBD for $400,000, $500,000 still, which might mean that, 2 years from now, yes, it's not going to happen overnight, but if you were to put away a couple of $100 a week for the next couple of years, and then leverage off opportunities that come up at those times, you know, you might be in a position to be able to seriously consider something. Now, I know a lot of people watching this are in a great position financially and this doesn't apply to you, but I bought my first 6 properties earning less than a combined income of $70,000 per year.
Yeah, exactly.
I had children, like by that point, I had a job, I had a wife that wasn't producing income because she was on maternity leave. Like, yes, I didn't have an extravagant lifestyle, and yes, I wasn't driving like a Beamer like everyone in Sydney wants to drive regardless of how much they're earning, but I was very, very focused on what I was trying to do and what I was trying to create. And I just, instead of having a budget, I just paid myself whatever I could afford to pay myself each week before all of those costs came out.
Yeah, and I'm the same. Matt and I are the same. Like, we both bought those first couple of properties. Basically, we had individual savings because we got to a point where we were in our young 20s individually and had decided we've got to make this happen ourselves, and had begun putting money away from quite a young age, and then came together and were lucky enough that we were both on the same page with that. But we weren't earning drastic amounts of money. Matt was basically labouring and being a builder for 6 months a year and then disappearing overseas for 6 months a year. So we still made it happen. And I think if you just put small things in practice, and like Ben said, don't expect it to happen overnight, be realistic and look at areas outside of where you're emotionally attached to or where you're familiar with. If you want to get into the property market, you've just got to be realistic with a budget and with a savings plan so that you can make it happen, even if it's not where you envisaged yourself living forever.
Yeah, now you might be sort of getting to this point in the video, we're pretty deep into it now, where you're kind of like, well, what does all of this have to do with procrastination? And to wrap it all up, procrastination is not a real thing. Procrastination is not real. It's a word that we apply to a lot of different reasons why you actually don't take action. Now, procrastination is just a word for doing nothing, and doing nothing feels more comfortable than doing something. And we just need to recognize that, like, as investors, we are always going to procrastinate because we are working through all of these things. Now, the reason this list is so long is because Crystal and I physically felt every single one of these things. Like, we felt not having a mentor or coach. I didn't even know what a buyer's agent was until I bought my 7th property or something. Like, limited time, everybody is struggling with that. Like, no social support or not having people to talk to about this. Like, we're fortunate enough to get to speak to amazing people every day about it now because our clients vibe on it the same way that we do. But for so long, I didn't have that support, which is why Pumped on Property as a blog was created. Analysis paralysis, like fear, these are all just words that we use to describe procrastination. And what procrastination and all of these other things really are is just, you're fucking scared. Like, I don't mean to be brutal about it, I'm scared as well. Like, it scares the shit out of me that sometimes property prices go down, that it is a long-term game, and at the start of the game when I originally started to play it, I wanted it to be a short-term game. Like, I'm scared that, you know, I've made the wrong decision with my money and my family's future is heading in the wrong direction, and had I have invested in shares or other businesses, I could have done better. Like, these are all of the things that we carry as investors. It all just comes back to you're scared of change and taking action, and all of these things are unknown.
Yeah.
So we put all these labels on them to protect ourselves, but the protection works for today. The protection doesn't work when you're 70 years of age, you've worked an entire lifetime, you've wasted 40 years working away from your family and doing stuff that is not your life's purpose or your mission or giving you fulfillment for someone you fucking can't stand, and you end up on the pension after a lifetime of working. And I say that, like, I know that sounds brutal in the way that I'm saying it, but the reality is one of our grandmas ended up on the pension, and I truly don't believe that it could have been any other way. Like, as a single mum raising 8 children, you know, that was her only option. But Crystal and I have learnt from that option, and we've seen our other grandma who literally bought one property on the northern beaches of Sydney, how long ago?
60 years ago?
60 years ago for what, like $1,500 bucks?
Yeah, I think...
or $4,000.
Yeah, £4,000 or something. Like, ridiculous.
She just resold it so that she could move into a nursing home for like well over $1 million. So, you know, like, one decision a long time ago, like, who cares if the property market doesn't go up in the next 12 months? Who cares if you mistime the market and it goes down by 20%? if you're looking at this as a 15 to 20 year investment, history shows us that property can work really well in Australia. If you're trying to do it in a very short period of time, it can be brutal and you can bankrupt yourself and wreck your entire future. But if you're playing the 10, 20, 30, 40 year game, property investing can be really forgiving. And so, behind that brutality of that language that I just said before, like, overcome the fear through education, overcome the fear through learning more than everybody else in the market, overcome the fear by understanding the history.
Yeah. Overcome the fear by having people around you that support you, by having people that have done this before that you can talk to and rely on, and just having people make it simple. Property can be simple. It can be so freaking fun. Like, it's such a fun thing, and when you realize how simple it can be, that fear is taken away. But it's always there. Like Ben and I said, it's always there. We experience it every single time. And it's just one of those things. It's a reality of life, but it's also something that once you move past, there is so much more reward if you just let yourself kind of rip away that fear and embrace what the future can hold if you just allow it to. What
scares me is the thought of doing something for a long period of time that I don't enjoy. Like, that is actually crushing for me. Like, life is so much better when you have choices, and whatever your thought process around money is, negative or positive, not having to ever worry about money again enables you to make better choices in your life based on your happiness, your passion, what fulfills you. If your highest value is family, then why would you consider trading the next 40 or 50 years of your life working away from your family when you could work for the next 15 years in a very focused way and invest that money cleverly and never have to work again, so that you can spend every day for the rest of your life with your family, but for the next 15 years still enjoy every single day because you know that the work you're doing is amounting to future time with them. If your highest value is making a heap of cash, then you're not going to make it. I know I've got clients that earn 50 grand a year that own 3 properties. I've got clients that earn $2 million a year plus that literally don't have more than 20 grand to their name. It's not what you earn, it's what you do with what you earn. So if your highest value is making money, stop pretending that earning more money in your job or your business is going to create any more freedom for you, because you're just going to pay more tax, and start investing that money, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, into assets that create wealth for life for you, so that the key cog in your life that's creating income isn't you, and is the assets that you've put in that bundle to replace, the time that you have to trade for that money. And like Crystal and I aren't there personally, we're working towards that. We're not going to be there tomorrow. It's going to take 15 years, but we will get there. And there's so many other people that can do the same thing over a 15 to 25 year period. So, have a crack at it, overcome some of this stuff. For those of you looking to buy a property in the next 12 months, we'd love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session where either myself or my brother Simon would catch up with you and learn more about exactly where you are and where you want to be long term, and help educate you on what the next steps could be, either with someone like us that could help you do it, or if you want to do it on your own, you'll just get a heap of valuable information like you do in these videos to go off and do it on your own. So we just want the best for you. We truly believe that the more people that are financially free, that have choices in their life, the better the world will be. We recorded a video recently called 2 Properties to Financial Freedom. I think it'd be a really cool video if you're watching this one and you haven't seen it, to just understand how easy property can be over a 15 to 25 year period to get you to where you want to be. So thanks so much for listening today, guys. It's Chris Leveringham and Ben from Pumped on Property, and we've really appreciated it.